time, and that's always wonderful. All right, I want to welcome everyone to the meeting of the Cameron Park CSD Board of Directors. It is Wednesday, February 17th, and we're starting our meeting at 6:30 p.m. General Manager, if you would start with roll call, please.
Yes. Director Aston?
Here.
Director Carlson?
Aye, present.
Director Bazette? Is he muted?
Yep.
You good, Sydney?
Okay, I'm present.
There.
You're present. Good.
Okay, thank
Okay.
Okay.
Director Scobie?
Here and present.
Oh, good. And Director Wooten?
Here and present.
Good.
Well, thank you all. And we will move next to the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Wooten, would you lead us in that, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right. Reminder is that this is a teleconferencing meeting. We'll be following protocols as are posted in the agenda. You will see the Zoom meeting protocols on page 5 for anybody who needs to read through those. Our next item, we will have public testimony shortly, will be received on each agenda item as it is called. Principal parties on each side of an issue are allocated 10 minutes to speak. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes except with the consent of the board. Individuals shall be allowed to speak on any item only once. Members of the audience are asked to volunteer their name before addressing the board, not required. The board reserves the right to waive said rules by a majority vote. So with that in place, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda.
Director President Aston?
Yes,
Eric.
you don't need that many titles in front of me.
Sorry about that. Sherry Moran has an introduction she would like to make as a second presentation. So I would like to add that to the agenda during presentations and after the concerned citizens of Cameron Park.
That sounds fine. Writing that down. Presentation by Chief Morantz.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda with the additional presentation as stated by Jill.
I second it.
Okay, just a second. I didn't know if there was anything any of the members of the board wanted to address. And okay, all right. Jill, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Director Aston?
Aye.
Director Carlson?
Aye.
Director Bazette?
Aye.
Director Scobie?
Aye.
And Director Wooten?
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Now we'll move on to recognitions and presentations. And we have now 2 scheduled for this evening. So General Manager, would you set us up for our first presentation by the concerned citizens of Cameron Park?
Yeah. So I'm going to welcome Hope and Leja. Okay, I'm sorry. I should have asked you that before. I'd like to introduce Hope Leja, who is one of the key leaders, I think, for the concerned citizens of Cameron Park. We've talked a little bit and they are here this evening to just talk about some of the things that they're addressing in the community.
Yes, thank you for having us. The Concerned Citizens of Cameron Park is a newly formed, large bipartisan community action group comprised of concerned citizens with a like-mind focus. The purpose of our grassroots effort is to work collaboratively with citizens, community resource representatives, business owners, community leaders, and elected officials to address the growing rates of crime, drugs, and health hazards in our community. Our group has blossomed from just a few members to over 350 citizens in a short period of time, and it continues to grow on a daily basis. We all share similar concerns about criminal activity, drugs, and hazards in our community. We have worked with many business owners to date to discuss our concerns, and many of them share our perspective. We work diligently with the financial group that owns Safeway Center to address the criminal activity that in that particular center. As a result, the financial group sought solutions and hired a temporary security guard and is correcting lighting issues, cutting back their trees, and working closely with Safeway management on other methods to deter crime and health hazards. We are hopeful that they have adopted these security measures on a permanent basis. We have organized a meeting with business owners in the community and the sheriff's hot team, Safeway management, and volunteers from our group to discuss the importance of being vigilant and utilizing the resources available to us as citizens. It was an excellent, resourceful collaboration. We contacted Supervisor Turnbow's office to arrange a meeting with key county department heads to discuss concerns of our group and suggest some new innovative ideas to address the crime in our community. We requested the sheriff's office to consider a substation on Coach Lane. We suggested a mobile app to report non-criminal incidents to county departments. And we suggested a camera subsidy program for discounted security cameras that will help businesses and citizens to purchase cameras to deter crime. And another thing we brought up was rebranding the Coach Lane area to feel like more like a town center and flood the positive to push out the negative. We understand the issues in Cameron Park are multifactorial. We learned through the hot team that we are prone to crime due to the proximity of the freeway and Sacramento and other access points for criminals to target our area. We also understand that we can't rely on the sheriff's resources alone to take note of and address every hazard in the community. They need us as much as we need them. We need to be their eyes and ears. We want our sheriff to focus on preventing, solving, and deterring crime. We believe an active community that involves itself, demonstrates care and respect for their surroundings, and participates in solutions can be just as effective as a deterrent for crime and health hazards as any. We would like to partner with the CSD in any efforts to deter and reduce crime in our community, as well as participate in discussions that directly relate to improving our community. Thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Leach. I appreciate you coming and bringing that to us. That was a wonderfully focused, concise summary of what you all have done in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Excuse me.
And yes, it seems, Director Wooden, do you have a question?
I would like to know how I would get a hold of you if I wanted to call.
Oh, okay. Well, you can talk to me or you can talk to Colleen. She's our founder. I can give you my phone number if you'd like.
That'd
So
be fine.
I don't know that you want to do that in a public meeting.
That's true.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right, Ellie. What I'll do, Ellie and Hope, I will connect you.
Okay,
Meeting. How's that?
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll open it up to the board if you have any questions or comments for Ms. Leija.
Yeah, this is Director Carlson. Thank you so much for the, again, concise but very, very meaty presentation. This is really wonderful to hear of so many engaged residents here in Cameron Park. It's just great to hear that. And I think there is a lot of, as you've said, need to, and I know the county's been working at it too, to rebrand the Coach Lane area. So my heart is with you for that. And I'm just curious what, and I applaud some of the innovative approaches that your group is looking at. And I'm just curious, were you able to meet with some of the county departments aside from the
Yeah.
sheriffs?
Yes, and we have, I believe Colleen has others scheduled too.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have, we are on next door and also on Facebook if you ever want to look to see what's going on and be, you know, we have updates periodically. We have a newsletter every month trying to keep everybody informed of what's happening.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Director Bassett, I have a question.
Sure.
I was just curious what the receptivity about having a sheriff's office branch in Cameron Park. Is there one in El Dorado Hills, or where is the nearest one?
There is one in El Dorado Hills, from what I understand, and they were receptive. there was actually somebody that has an office space that they are offering the sheriff's department. And he would, Sheriff DeAugustino was considering it. And that was a lot, because we met with them a few weeks ago. And so he was considering it. We haven't heard anything back from that yet, from that meeting.
Okay, that's encouraging.
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be a great presence to have there, even if they just sit there and write their reports or whatever, just being a presence would be.
Yeah, that visibility is just a great
Yes.
concept. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anything else from any other directors? Yeah, well, I'll chime mine in then, Ms. Leisha. Thank you again. I
Sure.
was just taking notes as you were talking, and that is a wonderful list of steps that you all have taken. I'm curious what else is on your radar, any other actions or goals? next?
It's evolving. Good question. Colleen was actually supposed to be here. She was the one that founded it, but last minute she had a migraine. So I just was thrown in here, but so I'm not sure of, what the next step is, but we are still looking into the things, working with the Safeway and local businesses in highlighting the crime of the area, and also putting lighting, cameras, things like that aren't up at some of the businesses. We're working on that and trying to keep a security in Safeway. They were on the fence about having a permanent security there, but we're still in talking with them and trying to encourage them with that. So, and as far as other things, I know, like I said, the newsletter comes out. I'm sure we'll be putting things in there as time goes on that we're going to be working on.
Something you mentioned that I was curious, just for informational purposes, talking about growing rates of crime and such. Is that incidental information? Do we have statistics from the sheriff's office? I'm just curious, because I've been following some of what I know you all have been looking at with some of the catalytic converter thefts and other things happening. So tell me where that comes from.
Well, we do have reports. We do, and we have talked with the HOT team and sheriff, and they do acknowledge that there is a lot of people from SAC that come up, and with the catalytic converters, they've been stealing those. And yeah, they have said there's been an uptick, and they verified that. And we have reports that we gather on a regular basis. So, yeah.
And that just helps know, because for perspective, as I know, how long have you lived in Cameron Park? I'm just curious.
Me?
Yes.
I've been here 27 years.
Okay, so you've seen the ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so there's context and perspective for it all.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
That's good. Well, please keep us informed, and obviously a lot of this is out of the realm of CSD responsibility or ability, but this is our community, and we want to support things that make it better. So,
and that's why we wanted to present it. We knew your scope, and you're only, have your own things that you can take care of, and this is not one of your authorities, but we did want you to know that there's a large amount of people in the community that are concerned. Yeah.
That's great. And hopefully as things come back, our community center is a gathering place where however that works, if the group wants to meet there, and we can help that.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Director Wooten, you have your hand up.
Yes. You mentioned Coach Lane. And I believe somewhere back in there is kind of a homeless camp.
Yeah, we've been speaking with the HOT team.
However, that land is privately owned, I believe.
There's several areas that do have homeless populations and encampments, that according to the HOT team. And yes, a lot of it is on private property. So a lot of, you kind of have your hands tied to a certain degree, and the landowner really has to initiate something. But they are aware of them. They do go and visit. They do offer services, and they're keeping an eye on the situation.
Oh, thank you.
Director Bazette, you too.
Yes, I was wondering if you also made contact with the franchise owner of the McDonald's. That seems to be a huge magnet in that area.
I think she has talked to the managers there. I know she's talked to several of them in that shopping center. And also the motel people and the probation department. And because of sometimes they have parolees that are there without supervision. So that is a concern too, that we've been looking into. So yeah, we have been talking with many of the
Okay.
I don't know if particularly if McDonald's, I can find out, but many of the business owners she's been in contact with, definitely, yes.
I
Oh.
have just one
Go ahead.
question for you, Hope.
Yeah,
Thank you, Eric. Is your group doing any fundraising to help pay for these like security guards and cameras and expenses
no,
like that?
no, we haven't yet, but we've just recently formed in the last, couple of months. So we're in our beginnings and we haven't gone to that way yet as far as any kind of fundraising. We haven't approached that. We're still fact finding and gathering information basically. And then, throwing out suggestions, meeting with businesses, seeing what their concerns are, as well as the private citizens too. We have a lot of people, like there was graffiti over by the off of 50. We were, discussing that with the mini storage unit owners, and there's a lot of different ways that this group can go, and we're trying to address several types of situations in the area with crime and graffiti and the homeless and parolees and things like that. So I'm trying to work with the business owners too.
And I was next going to open this up to the public, anybody else who's attending, if they have questions for you. And I do see one hand. Barbara's got her hand raised. Alyssa, could you unmute her so she can speak?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Hi, good evening, Hope. I joined your group.
Oh, good.
I tried to get the story from Colleen, but I've lived in the county 44 years and in this community over 30. And I've been shopping at Safeway since before it was where it's at now. And
Right.
you keep mentioning Safeway, and I know something happened there. Something about a gal at the bank and money.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I did talk, I know the managers over there, I've known them for years, but I kind of would like you to tell the story of what happened, because isn't this why your group got formed initially?
No.
Oh, okay.
This has happened since that. We were in place before this incident
Okay.
happened. So yeah, she was concerned. Her child gets dropped off over there for the bus from school. And, she was concerned there were some homeless folks back there behind Safeway. And that's really how it kind of started. Then she started looking into the crime in the area. But that was an instance where somebody was robbed of their money. I guess they just did a withdrawal from the bank in Safeway, and they were robbed of their money in the parking lot, I believe. I don't know all the facts, but
Well, it was my understanding from the manager that the lady did get money out of the bank. She put it in her purse in such a way, and somebody walked by, a young man, I'm assuming, and grabbed the money out of her. And then they did get him though. But it's just that when I was talking to them over there about it, they felt maybe that they were being targeted as and I just want to say to be cautious, not to target just that shopping center.
Oh, no, we're looking into, like you said, there's been home invasions, there's been, people's cars broken into.
Well, I know about I know about the mail, I know about the catalytic converters. I know we have numerous homeless encampments, just not by Safeway. I live by the golf course.
Right.
They walk through here in the morning. But I want to commend you guys for what you've done in such a short period of time. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I did join the group, and I will get involved with you.
Yeah, we welcome any ideas and any from your board, anybody that has any ideas will be,
Oh,
yeah, we'd love to
absolutely.
hear from you.
Thank you. Great
Mhm.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Anybody else from our attendees in the public that has a question or would like to make a comment and contribute to this?
No hands.
Okay, not seeing that, I'll bring it back to the board. Hope one last comment
Sure.
from himself as you're talking, and I know it's a bigger thing and you all are just starting, but as I'm sure you're aware, there is a lot of discussion in Sacramento around the homeless issue. I don't know how else to put that. And beginning to see some action for solutions and such. I do know a little to know that's what used to be is people would come from up here down to Sac. Now they're coming from Sac up here. I don't know if there is any way to latch on to that train as a region, and that would be beyond just the scope of our community,
Right.
obviously. But if there's something in the county that, since there's more awareness and potentially more resources,
Right.
if there's something, I don't know,
Yeah.
just to help with that, not simply to clean up areas, but to provide places.
Sure.
So that's one of the issues.
Right. I know. Yes. I know the HOT team has been working on that, and a few county departments are working on that also with the homeless. But yeah, it's a problem everywhere, unfortunately. And you can only help the ones that really want to be helped, but there's a lot of homeless that don't. So that seems to be the problem with the HOT team. They can offer everybody services, and the ones that take it, it's great. But then there's others that prefer that lifestyle, and that's where it gets difficult.
Isn't the HOT team part of Sheriff DiAugustini's group?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the homeless outreach team. They are sheriff deputies that are part of the homeless outreach team. Yes.
Thank you so much. Director Bazette, another comment?
Yeah, just one more piece of information. The rotating church shelter
Yes.
was suspended this year because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Foothills Methodist did it sometimes as many as 50 people. I attend that church, stayed there, and other churches up in more in the Placerville area. So I suspect there's just more desperation. Those services have just, I think Green Valley offers some smaller level, but those people are in a more desperate situation, I
Right.
suspect, and that's part of the issue.
And they did get them off because of COVID. They took high risk homeless and they placed them in a hotel up, I think, in Pollock Pines. There's a couple of hotels
Right.
that they've
Right.
offered, for the homeless too, because of COVID risk. So yeah, they're working on it. But that's a good idea about the regional aspect of it. We can look into that, definitely.
Well, and particularly since Sacramento has begun to think in those terms around COVID.
Right.
There's the hospital region zones,
Right.
there's these other pieces that
Right.
might be an easy conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate your time and bringing that to us. Keep us informed as
Okay.
things develop. We do want to know.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. And we'll move to our next presentation now. Chief Morantz, you have something for us.
There we go. Okay. Good evening. So as you all are aware, our unit chief, Scott Lindgren, retired at the end of last year. And so I am very pleased to introduce our new unit chief, Mike Blankenheim. He has extensive history here in the Amador and El Dorado unit, working here, and also in Cameron Park, which he can provide a little more detail here in a minute. We have CAL FIRE and Cameron Park have a 25-year history of cooperative agreement. And I just want to make note of how, and I'll use the word successful, that folks who have worked in Cameron Park are now in with CAL FIRE. Like our prior director of all of CAL FIRE worked in Cameron Park. Our current deputy director worked at, started in Cameron Park. We have our prior unit chief, our current unit chief, and we have other assistant chiefs across the state who have worked in Cameron Park Fire Department. And so I just, I'm really, really proud of that history and proud of the quality of folks that are, come out of the Cameron Park Fire Department program. So Unit Chief Mike Blankenheim is on his way home from a meeting in Tahoe, and the spotty connection doesn't support him Zooming in, but he has called in. So I just want to invite him to talk to you guys.
So Alyssa, I'm wondering if that's the phone number.
Yes.
It ends in 700. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the one.
Yep.
I think, Mike, you are unmuted if you want to speak.
Okay, can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, you can.
Okay, very good. So I'll be super brief with this, and I appreciate the introduction, Sherry. So the only reason I wanted to get on tonight was I've been in this position now for just about exactly 2 months now, and as you guys are well aware, Cameron Park is one of my overall responsibilities. So I want to take this opportunity, just a quick introduction to myself, to the board, and then yeah, and just say a couple words. And so, like Chief Moran said, I do have some long history in the Amador El Dorado unit. I started here as a firefighter in like 1994, and I've worked in various places in both Amador and El Dorado County. But what I'm gonna highlight here was I did spend 8 years working in the Cameron Park Fire Department from about 2000 to 2007, and then again in 2010 to 2012. So I've got some good history with the fire department there in Cameron Park. And I worked there at a time when it was very formative in my career, when I was a young engineer, a young company officer, learning about the fire department and leadership and all of those kind of things. So the Cameron Park Fire Department, and this unit as a whole, but the Cameron Park Fire Department specifically, has a lot of sentimental value to me. That was a tremendously rewarding experience for me in my career to be there. And I just like to say how honored I am to come back into a position now many years later when I can be in a position to oversee that program and continue that relationship with you, the board of directors, and the community there, which that relationship is.
Oops.
Yeah, very much looking forward to continuing that relationship and that cooperation, and looking forward to a time as well when the COVID thing slows down, hopefully, and we can maybe have some of these conversations in person. And like I said, looking forward to working with you guys and being a part of serving that community again. So thank you for the opportunity to let me speak for a minute or two and introduce myself. And yeah, unless anybody's got any questions, I'll surely entertain. That was really all I had. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We are really glad to hear from you and glad to have you in this place, and look forward to actually seeing you in person at some point and working with you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Awesome. My pleasure.
And I don't have to tell you, but drive safe.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else you want to add, Chief Morantz?
No, well, I just want to echo. I've worked with Chief Blankenheim for many, many years, and I'm really excited about the future. I mean, he's going to be working here for however many years till he finishes out his career. There's going to be some consistency. There's going to be he is really driven for just relationships, and I'm just really looking forward to that in the future, and also echoing the fact that we can get back in person. You guys can actually meet him and interact a little bit. So
thank you. Any questions for Mike or comments from the board?
This is Director Scobie. I just want to say welcome, and I look forward to meeting you.
Thank you so much. And likewise.
And unless any other comments, I'll also open up to the public. Any questions or comments? Okay,
No
seeing none.
hands.
No hands, we'll sustain that. All right, Mike, well, we'll release you so that unless you really want to sit and listen on this meeting on your phone on the way home. Thank you for taking the time.
All right, well, thank you guys. Yeah, no, but thanks for giving me a couple minutes, and yeah, looking forward to working with you guys in the future here. So thank you again.
Same here. You take care.
Hi.
Okay, well, that's a good start to the meeting. All right, we will move on from recognitions and presentations to our open forum time. This is where members of the public may speak on any item not on the agenda that falls within the jurisdiction of the Board of Directors. Our public testimony guidelines are in play here. So if we have any member of the public attending who would like to speak, if you can raise your hand. And I do see one hand there, Alyssa.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, thank you, Alyssa. Good evening, board, and thank you for your time. I'm Chris Felton of the Cameron Woods Advisory Committee, and we'd like to comment on the strategic plan. The PowerPoints presented lists the mission, values, and strategic focus areas, as well as the results of the community survey to date, listed as the top 2 most important issues facing the CSD was the parks, lake, and growth development. Now, looking further in the presentation, it's clear the community wants to keep a rural, small town environment feel. However, this is in direct contradiction to one of our CSD directors chairing the Housing Committee for CDEC. This director advocates for changing single-family parcels to multifamily. That includes development of large-scale apartment complexes in our community. This is important to note because as a CSD director, you must remain objective and advocate for our Cameron Park community. You can't do both. It's clear our community wants the CSD to strategically focus on areas such as sustainable finances and preserving property values in our community. Supporting large-scale multifamily developments is not under the values of respectful and collaborative leadership for our CSD and not what our community wants. Thank you again for your time and for representing our community.
Thank you, Mr. Felton. All right. Any other members of the public who would like to speak at this point in our open forum?
No hands.
Okay. So we will close the open forum for non-agenda items at this point. And we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
I would like to pull item 10. I just want to provide the board with a little bit more information.
Who is pulling this? Who wants to pull this?
Jill.
Thank you, Jill.
Okay, so asking to pull item number 10. Anything else from any other members of the board? Like to make any changes to the consent agenda? Okay, anything else from public? Oh, all right, so seeing none, do we have a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Yeah, this is Director Carlson. I move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item 10 for a future meeting.
Yeah, I just want it heard as item 11. So not to pull it
11,
from
that's
the agenda.
not-
I'm sorry. I don't want to, I just want to say a few words about it, I guess.
Oh, okay. Let me restate my motion. This is Director Carlson, and I would like to approve the consent agenda. However, removing item 10 to be discussed under item 11, general business.
I will second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. General Manager, would you do roll call for the vote, please?
Director Easton,
Aye.
Director Carlson,
Aye.
Director Bazette,
Aye.
Director Scobie,
Aye.
and Director Wooten.
Aye.
So the consent agenda is approved with removal of item 10. And that will move into item number 11, which is what we will move to next. Now we step into our general business. So, General Manager, would you talk to us about item 10, the resolution?
Yeah. As you all know, we have been working on writing a competitive grant for Proposition 68. It's called the State Park Program. And we are also actively moving ahead with the Splash and Spray Playground at Cameron Park Lake. And the CALA has been hired, board approved a contract, and we're working diligently on plans and specifications, which will come back to the board. for that feature. Under the advisement of our grant writer consultant, it was adjusted and recommended that we apply for all of the improvements at Cameron Park Lake, not just the splash and spray playground, but all of the improvements, which is a $1.7 million project. This is that the size and the scope of our project is consistent with other projects that have been awarded out of there. And so that's why the recommendation came that way from our grant consultant. A CEQA document is required for the grant application. We are actively working on an environmental document for our splash and spray playground, but we have yet to initiate an environmental document for all of the improvements at Cameron Park Lake. And so staff is meeting on Friday with our landscape architects and also the consultant they've hired for the environmental permitting. And we'll make a decision on Friday whether or not we have the ability to ask for funding for the entire project because we can get an environmental document in time for the grant application, or if we need to scale back and just ask for the splash and spray playground, which is the lion's share of the project, but it's about half the cost. So I just wanted to let you know that the resolution is generic enough. With your authority, we'll be able to move in either fashion. So I am asking for your approval of the resolution. Just know that staff will make the call on Friday whether we can go for all of the projects in Cameron Park Lake or just a portion of them.
Thank you.
This is Monique. Eric, if I could ask a few questions.
Just about to open that up. Go ahead.
So I'm excited about being able to do all the improvements at the lake. And I was wondering if you could speak to the opportunity of perhaps adding some items such as, I noticed in the contract it allows for like renovations and repairs. So is there an opportunity for us to perhaps, renovate the grassy area or the bathrooms or some other areas of the lake that are not specifically called out in this plan that could be added with the grant?
Yeah. Yes. So, especially adding turf to the picnic area, we can certainly add that to the grant. It's still within the context of the design concept that the board has approved. Improving restrooms, we already have a restroom there. So, those kinds of improvements to existing features are can be added. We'll see the landscape architects on Friday and we can talk about adding those things, to that. And there may be enough flexibility within the existing allocation to do those things. So I think that CALA was very generous with their their project budget. So there may be some flexibility within there too. So I know park sign, it would be really nice to get some new park signage in there. So yes, there is opportunity for that.
Great. And then I just wanted to share a comment with my fellow board members, given that I live here at the lake and I enjoy it daily and spend a lot of time watching the wildlife. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Tom Sawyer Island. It's that little island that's out, it has a bridge going out. So it's a very small little island. In fact, I didn't even know it was an island until someone told me it was. But my point being is that it is the most populous nesting site for our geese, and we even have swan out there. Didn't nest.
Black swan.
Well, the black swan wasn't nesting, but we had a pair of swans nesting. And so I'm just hoping, right now I know it's just a concept and it's just labeled currently as a natural play area, but when and hopefully, we get funding for that area, we would want to obviously probably come up with the CEQA document as well, take care to protect that area for those animals that live there. I just wanted to share that thought with my fellow board members. And that's all I had on this. I'm super excited.
Any other questions from other members of the board? Questions or clarifications before we open it up to public comment? Okay, let's go and open this up to the public. Questions and comments in this? Feel free to raise your hand, as others have done tonight. We'll call on you and pull you. Everybody-
No hands.
Okay, seeing no hands, we'll close public comment on this and bring it back to the board. One clarification I know that I'd like just make sure that we say is, in doing this, part of the idea is not necessarily that the plan wasn't necessarily to get all this done at first, correct, General Manager?
Correct.
The idea is
So
going after this because we're trying to take advantage of this grant.
there is an opportunity, and this project fits within the scope of this grant. And so we were going to apply for the grant. The Splash and Spray Playground is about half the cost of the 1.7 million. So we felt that the grant consultant felt that we may compete better if it was a larger project.
And the idea behind this is that we are applying for a grant that would pay for the whole project.
Right.
Spectacular. Okay. All right. Any other commentary from my fellow board members? Anything that we want to put into this?
That sounds good.
Okay. Seeing none, then let's move on to an action for this. This is brought to us for approval and passing as a resolution. So do I have a motion?
This is Director Carlson. I move to approve Resolution 2021-04, authorizing State Park Program Proposition 68 competitive grant application.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and at this point, Jason, I'll just ask, should we read the full text of the resolution into the public record?
No, it's fine. It's a part of the agenda.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we listen to that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. General Manager, would you take roll call, please?
Director Easton,
Aye.
Director Carlson,
Aye.
Director Bazette,
Aye.
Director Scobie,
Woohoo!
and Director Woo-Hoo Wooten.
Okay.
All right. So we
Let's
have a-
hope we get it.
Yes, let's
Yes,
keep
this
our
is
fingers
right.
crossed. I will share a little tidbit with you. There was a glitch in the state park program application. It's an online application. There was a glitch in it. All the work that Whitney had done on it, she lost it.
Oh, you're kidding.
And it wasn't retrievable. And I guess it was a glitch in the system that others had. So yeah, heartbreaking. So
All right.
we're
So,
still at it. We're still at it though. We're persevering.
all right. So go back to old school hard copy.
Yeah.
Can't glitch that.
Or carbon copy.
Can't even print it. I mean, with those online applications, I mean, you could screenshot it, but you can't print it. You can't, you don't know.
Kidding.
And you don't, anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting us know. And so that's another opportunity to say thank you to you and to staff for your good work on that. This is an amazing opportunity and we're going to keep our fingers crossed. This is good. Thank you.
Amen.
All right. Let's move on to item number 12. This is to approve resolution 2021-05 power purchase agreement between Brighton Energies and Cameron Park Community Services District. All right, General Manager, take it away.
Oh, and there's Nico. Okay.
I think Nico's here too, right?
Yeah, Nico
here.
is here and so is Glenn Ramba. So welcome, Glenn. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna kick it off this evening and then I'm gonna turn over, if anything I've forgotten or details, Nico's gonna jump in at the end of this. So anyway, we are returning with a power purchase agreement between Brighton Energy and the district. The last we spoke was in December. The board approved an extension of the ARC alternatives contract so that we could continue seeking a solar project here at the district. And I signed a letter of intent that went to Brighton saying that we were interested in negotiating a PPA. Since December, there has been draft documents circulating and meetings held between Brighton Energy, ARC Alternatives. Nico was in on those, and Russell, Jason, and myself. This went on for quite a while, and it was very collaborative conversation about the PPA. And the terms of the PPA, I think everybody wanted to reach an agreement, so that was really good. As a reminder to you, a power purchase agreement means that the solar company, Brighton Energy, will own the system, and then they are obligated to sell us power from that system. And the district is obligated to purchase that power, and then we will be providing them a right of entry so that they can come in and maintain their system and repair the system and things like that. This is a 25-year agreement. There is a system buyout. So if the board in the future chooses to own and operate the system, there is a buyout clause starting in year 3. There is also, if the system, through design, development, and through getting ready for construction, if for some reason there is unforeseeable construction cost that come about, some obstacles in the project that drive up the cost of the project, and the system no longer is viable, there is a way for us to, we have an escape clause basically to get out of the agreement, but we do need to pay Brighton Energy for their work to that point up to $95,000. So I want to make sure that you all understand that. Staff is recommending a power purchase agreement versus a loan owner operator scenario because we like having an expert partner. I think that the district is really good at fire protection services and parks and recreation, and we don't have very many engineers here, and we are certainly not solar operators. So we are very comfortable having an expert partner with us and having somebody that, you know, is kind of a shared investment. We have the property, they have the system. I think we both kind of have skin in the game. And that means that we'll have a good working relationship. So anyway, that's my introductory comments. And at this point, there were some questions from individual board members prior to the meeting that came to me when I was briefing everyone. So I'm going to turn this over to Nico, and I think he has some additional information for us.
Okay.
Thanks, Jill. And so I just want to be clear, we're talking about the questions regarding the CEC loan for PPA buyout and payments to Brighton. Okay. So I think the first question that came up was about utilizing a CEC loan for buying out a power purchase agreement. And we've got a question into the CEC. They haven't responded back. It's kind of a gray area. There isn't a hard and fast program rule saying you can't. That being said, if you were to buy out the power purchase agreement, it would be years down the road. And that would depend on whatever the rules are at that time or whatever grants are available. So if the district were to enter into this power purchase agreement and try to buy it out next year, it might not be financially viable. That being said, you still might be able to do it with a CEC loan. We just don't know the exact rules. I believe there was another question about payments and financial obligations to Brighton before the system is installed and then after. So as Jill had mentioned, a power purchase agreement, you're agreeing to purchase all the electricity, the kilowatt hours that are generated from that system every year at the rate that Brighton has provided in the agreement. So that is the main financial obligation. Outside of that, there are no additional financial obligations. And so if you were to enter into this agreement, once Brighton starts designing construction, there's no other payment due to them. there might be a third-party inspection required from the local permitting agency, which would be a fee paid by the district, but that's not an obligation to Brighton. I think those were the questions, Jill. I believe those were the main ones, right?
Those were the ones, but
They were.
certainly,
Yeah.
if any board members have questions, Nico is here and I'm here to
Yeah.
answer those.
Because I'd like to follow up. Those were a couple of my questions. So Nico, if you could just clarify a little then. In this PPA agreement, we are obligated to purchase power from Brighton Energy at the set rate. Is there a minimum purchase amount per year? And what does that pencil out to as a bottom line, if so?
Yeah, so you're purchasing every kilowatt hour produced by the system. So everything that you've seen so far and that we've looked at, those are all based on models that take into account what's called typical meteorological years, which are based on averages of weather over time. So that'll go up and down depending on what's going on, depending on fire season, depending on the insolation and the amount of sun you actually receive. But no matter what, you're on the hook to purchase all of the power that is generated by those systems. So Brighton also works with the district on some energy efficiency projects. And so we've put out the procurement to size these systems to take into account the reduction in your annual consumption as a result of those projects. So the systems are sized to be 100% offset of the district's load, taking into account those projects. So you're not going to be purchasing more electricity than you need. You're just going to be purchasing the 100% offset of the site load there.
So this is generating whether or not we're using it, we are paying for it.
That's right, yeah. So, and I think if I'm hearing your question right, if the district isn't operating facilities next year or something happens where everything is shut down, yeah, under the agreement, you're still on the hook for purchasing the electricity that's generated from them. And if there's a force majeure or something that changes, there are ways out. There are just early termination fees in response to that. But yeah, you're on the hook for buying electricity every year from that system.
Just want to make sure that
But
was.
the fire stations will keep it busy. I can bet on that.
Okay, just want to make sure that was clear. Director Scobie, you have a question?
Yeah, I have two. I was curious when we had the significant smoke events last year and the year before that, when there was obviously the panels weren't receiving enough as much solar radiation, so they generate significantly less due to the smoke. Are we going to be charged for we're going to be charged for the amount that's generated, not, or is that considered a force majeure event when there's, obliterates half the power that it could normally generate?
So yeah, you're charged for what's produced from it. So you're not on the hook for what would have been generated. The other thing to note on that, just for the fire, so it does reduce production a little bit, but it doesn't chop it in half. I mean, so it is all kind of on the margin. So it'd be slightly lower than you'd normally expect to see. And during the really peak times, like when fire season's real bad, say you have a fire in Placerville or something that's just really choking it out, it'll decrease for a couple of days, but it doesn't cut it in half or go to zero.
Right. And then my second question is, when we were just started in our solar committee, we spoke with some other agencies that put in a solar project. And one of them was the golf course. And they were saying how they had to, get involved with PG&E to upgrade their transformer. And I see in the project that may be needed. Is there any way that we could accelerate answering that question before we're on the hook for $25K to cancel it?
No.
Is there any way we could get that answer if the transformer that the two locations use need to be upgraded?
Yeah, so the way that that's determined is the process of submitting the interconnection application into PG&E. And so once PG&E receives the application and sees the capacity of the system you're putting in there, they review it and make sure it'll jive with everything on their side. And if there is a transformer upgrade identified, that's when you find out after that study, and that usually kind of goes in parallel with the design process. So unless you were to proceed without a contractor and submit an interconnection application ahead of time, which is possible, but it would delay everything, you generally would do the design and interconnection application in parallel. Because
So
you
then-
need some of that information for the interconnection application, if that makes sense. So you
Yeah.
take the electrical single line and look at it.
My question is where will we be in the contract if it turns out that actually we have a giant expense to upgrade the transformers and they're going to expect us to pay for it, us being the district? Where in the process would we be? Would we be at the $25,000 cancellation mark, or would be between that and the 90,000?
I can't remember exactly the milestones off the top of my head, but I think you'd be closer to the in between 25 and 90,000 mark, because we'd most likely be further along with designs. There might be ways to talk to Brighton about how to handle that risk though, and try to possibly look at scheduling the site where we think there might be an issue with the transformer, waiting on the full design so that they can submit the interconnection application ahead of time. So we can try to minimize the costs there. The projects that we've seen in the past that are around this size, when a transformer upgrade is required, it doesn't normally break the project. It is an expense, and it is something that can cost on the order of $50,000 to $85,000 or something about that for these size of projects. But it wouldn't really break it. It would just be an additional expense from a financial perspective. It'd still pencil out the project.
So will you be, you'll be helping us manage Brighton and getting this project to completion? Is that part of your contract?
It's not right now, but we're happy to. And if it's something that the district would like our support on, that's absolutely support that we provide up and down the state for projects large and small. We oversee design process and help run weekly meetings and keep our finger on the pulse on the vendor and track these issues like interconnection applications and permitting, and make sure that your interests are protected before they get too far down the road.
Well, the reason I'm going on about this so much is because it did happen to one of the agencies that we interviewed during the solar, with the solar committee. So I just want to know how we can minimize that risk, know that information ahead of time before we're obligated to pay $90,000. So how would we do that?
So without talking to Brighton, I don't have an exact answer, because some of it's going to depend on their flexibility with the schedule for design and construction. But there's definitely ways to try to bring it to the forefront. That being said, PG&E sometimes is a little bit of a black box. So depending on what happens with their timing with reviewing the interconnection application, it's just hard to say that this would be the plan. I think we might be able to try to do some additional due diligence on the district's infrastructure side. So there's going to be a transformer from PG&E out there somewhere, and they don't even usually have labels. They're not something that you can tell what size they are and what the capacity is, but some people can kind of ballpark it based on general shape and what they look like. And so I have been involved with a few projects that have had transformer upgrades that have been a result of the project. And like I said, it's something that's normally not a complete deal breaker, but I don't want to get too technical and take up everyone's time, but when you have a dedicated transformer from PG&E on your site, if you're going to do a solar project like this and the transformer is too small, you are on the hook for it. If it was shared between other customers, it's a different story. But if it's a dedicated transformer for you as the customer, and now you're going to do this project that's going to impact that year, it is on you. So we might be able to try to research a little bit more to figure out if, one, it is a dedicated transformer, two, the size of it, and if we think there'd be a upgrade that would be required, and then we have some rough costs for that.
Okay, and the other thing I thought of is that, if we just, I guess we just essentially deduct that, you know, if it was 85,000, we'd deduct that from our savings over the year would be the worst case.
That's right, yeah. And so, you know, there's chances to finance that through the power purchase agreement too. If the district doesn't want to pay cash for it, you are paying financing charges over the life of the power purchase agreement for it. And so it's generally about twice as expensive. So say the transformer upgrade is $50,000. Over the 25-year life of the project, it'll cost the district $100,000 to finance it through the power purchase agreement. And given the overall net benefit numbers for this project, that would still keep the project in the black though. You'd still be a positive net benefit over the lifetime of the system.
Great. All right. Thank you, Nico. That's all I have for now.
You're welcome.
So, any other questions? Director Bazette?
Yes, I have three questions. The first question is it's going to be on on the parking lots, a solar shade. Is that there's nothing constructed on a roof? There's all parking lot shade structures. Is that correct? Like Ponderosa, Oak Ridge, and a Walmart. Is it kind of looking something like that?
That's right. Yeah.
Is there? I mean, if there's one that's the closest, if we wanted to look at what would be the one locally?
So the closest ones are projects that I was personally involved in, actually, for the El Dorado Union High School District. So I think you just named off Ponderosa and Oak Ridge. And
Okay.
I know those are typical carport systems.
Okay. Yeah. And of course, those structures remain at the end of this agreement, right?
Well, at the end of the agreement, you know, they are obligated to take their stuff and go home unless you want to continue on or purchase it.
Oh, so those are being leased as well as the solar panels, is that correct?
Yeah, so it's not really being leased because they're the ones that own it. So they've put up all the cash to build this and they're supplying you with the electricity from it. And so at the end of the agreement, they take their equipment and go home unless you'd like to purchase it or continue on with a new agreement.
Do you have any thoughts on that, what that might look like in 25 years?
Yeah, I have some thoughts, but again, I mean, that's still kind of, who knows? But so what you're going to have out there are steel structures in the parking lot. So if all those areas are still parking lots still, you can definitely put new equipment on them if you'd like to purchase it yourself. Solar panels do have lifetimes that exceed what they're supposed to be too. So there are panels out there in the wild that still generate electricity. It's just less. You know, they keep degrading every year. So there's value to the system at the end of it. And I think the district will be in a position throughout the life of the system to look at purchasing it. And if you don't want to purchase it at year 7 or 12 or something in 25 years, it's nice to have the option to be able to buy it if you'd like, because there are conduits underground. There's stuff directly to your electrical infrastructure and panels might be free at that point. I don't know. I mean, it might still be a benefit to have the structure and infrastructure there.
Okay, we can't predict 25 years. So I have solar panels on my house and I just was reading articles today. So my next question is on the maintenance and it's somewhat debatable about cleaning solar panels. And I noticed that Squeaky Clean is now advertising they clean solar panels. Is that something you recommend and something that would be covered by Brighton?
So I'll answer the latter part first. It is covered by Brighton. So they're on the hook for maintaining and operating these systems. And that's one of the good parts about the power purchase agreement. So the debate about how many times you should wash a panel or how economical it is to do that, that's up to them to figure out. They're on the hook to sell you the electricity generated from those systems, and it's in their interest to make sure that they're maximizing the production. So if that means washing it 2 times per year, that's a cost that they absorb, and that's a process that they manage. If 1 is enough, if 0 is enough, that's up to them.
Okay. And my last question is kind of almost a spin-off Eric's question, and it's maybe the easiest way for me to understand it. What percentage of the energy costs for our district and our fire department would be covered by this agreement? Can you give us a number?
So I don't know district wide, but I can pull up quickly the values for the community center and fire station 89. So you do have some residual bill left from PG&E, but you are generating 100% of the kilowatt hours that you would otherwise be purchasing from PG&E. So
So
at the end of the year, you're,
it's 100% is what you're saying?
yeah, it's not 100% of the cost. It's 100% of the electricity consumption on an
Okay, that's
annual
what I was
basis.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yeah.
That's confusing.
Yeah, so there's still charges from PG&E. Like if you, Director Baz, if you have solar at your house, right?
I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you still have charges that are part of that. And that's good for the district to know, right? Your PG&E bill isn't going to be zero every year. It's just going to be the minimum that it can be.
Okay. Thank you.
With Nico, if I'm wrong, usually that's a connection charge and just some other basic fees that aren't energy.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And to clarify, if we use more than is produced, then the offset from the solar system, we pay that to Brighton, and then any additional electric use, we then pay to PG&E.
Right. Yeah. So if you
But it's
are
at
having a bunch of
tier.
parties at the pool, I'm sorry?
But it's at the lowest tier because it's offset from the solar system.
Right.
Yeah, depending on the rates that you end up on, and we'll look at that with Brighton to see if there needs to be a rate switch. I'm pretty sure you're staying on the same rate here, but yeah, anything over 100% you'd be purchasing from PG&E. And the way it works is, there's times when you're going to be generating credits from your system that are transferred to PG&E, and then there's times when you're using power from PG&E because the sun's not out or the system's not producing enough. And at the end of the year, you just true that up with the utility. And if you've taken more from them at the end of the year, you get a bill for that electricity.
All right, any other questions from the board?
Yeah, this is Director Carlson. Director Scobie, I really appreciate the transformer questions that you brought up. And I also appreciate, Nico, that it sounds like even if the transformer issue cost us up to $100,000, we'd still be in the black in the long run. But I know we're not at the point yet here in the discussion of making motions, but I guess I'm just wondering if there's going to be any thought of delaying an approval tonight, just in consideration of getting some more information regarding the need for more powerful transformers. So I don't know, Director Scobie, you don't need to respond to that unless you want to, but that's just kind of the thought that's circling in my head.
Well, let's bring that back when it comes back for board discussion, after we ask our questions and the public gets a chance to comment.
Yeah.
Let's bring that back. Any other questions, Director Carlson?
No, thank you.
Oh, no problem. Okay, seeing none from any other directors, I'll go and open it up to the public. If any of our public is here, has questions or comments they'd like to make at this point, please go and raise your hand. We will acknowledge you and call you in.
No hands.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, seeing none, we will close public comment and bring this back to the board for further discussion. All right, so this is where we'll bring that point back in, Director Carlson. So what you're asking the question of the rest of us is, should there be some consideration of postponing this until we have more information regarding the transformer?
I think more specifically, Director Scobie, are you considering, delaying this for like another month to see if we can find out?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. What I wanted to understand is, Nico kind of threw out a ballpark number. I have no idea what an upgraded transformer would cost. If we're saving 1.7 million and we have to choke up another 100K in the upfront, and perhaps we do pay it for cash upfront, it's a no-brainer that the district is coming out ahead.
Okay.
It'd be nice to know that ahead of time, but as he said, it's certainly not a deal breaker, especially if it's 100K, because we're still going to save 1.7, so we'll save 1.6 instead.
Okay.
No, absolutely not delay. I think we need to get on this. I'm super excited to see this coming forward. I'm just all a quiver.
Okay.
All a quiver.
Well, as the engineer on our board, I definitely wanted to hear what you had to say on this. So thank you.
Something I wanted to make sure that was in our view and consideration on this too, because part of our discussion has been purchasing versus the PPA. And I'll say one thing I appreciate about where this is at, and hopefully you all got to take a look at it, but on page 3 of attachment 12B, I don't know, Alyssa, if you can bring that
I was
up.
just gonna ask her, yeah.
If you can bring that up so we can all see that. There's a chart there for the system buyout. And what I like about this, besides the fact that we can actually see the numbers of what this would do, is it shows us what can happen somewhere along the way if this board a couple years down the road or future board further down the road decides that it is appropriate at that point to buy out the system, and it makes more fiscal sense that they're staffing, or they say, you know, the additional savings, because it's 1.7 million approximately, and Nico, correct me, feel free to jump in and correct me if I quote wrong numbers here, but it was about 1.7 million with a PPA and about 2.7 million with the purchase. So about $1 million net gain. Even further down the road, if that's still decreased, there's still significant gain to be had should a future board decide that that's a good fiscal move. So it leaves that in place. The CEC loan might still be potential, but even then down the road, the board might decide to just do that and put the savings in reserve to then pay themselves back. So I'm pleased with not just the power purchase agreement that'll get us savings now, but the potential that that decision we can make a decision later on. I like the way that's structured. One other piece I wanted to put before the board, and this isn't a decision tonight, but part of the discussion is we want to remember that we are still responsible, and Nico, chime in here, we are still responsible for some of the repairs or any potential replacements, damage that could happen at either site on this structure. If it's just general upkeep, that's usually going to be the vendor with Brighton. But if, you know, there's a kid that throws a javelin onto the some of the panels, then that's on us to fix. So for future and budget consideration, I'm going to suggest that we look at a line item where some of the projected savings are put into reserves so that we can both plan for that, number one, and frankly, number two, if we never have to realize that, that becomes seed money in case we want to purchase it down the road. So throwing that out for consideration for later discussion, it doesn't necessarily have a bearing on our decision tonight. So, Director Bazette.
You know, I'm like Monique. I kind of wonder what there's things out there that just, is there something we're overlooking? And my question is, why did Sunworks pull out? Am I entitled to know that, or is that privileged information? And they were the best numbers, but they weren't that much better than Brighton. But I was just, is there something that we're overlooking here? And that's why I wanted to know that.
Can I respond to that actually? And I may not have the official response, but Director Bazette, I saw in the newspaper just about when they decided not to work with Cameron Park that they had been attempting to go public because they were having cash flow issues, and that fell apart. So I'm thinking that they were trying to merge with a company in Vermont, I think. But my point is, it sounds like they were having some cash flow issues, and I think
something
that
else.
Yeah,
okay.
that
wasn't our proposal at all then. Okay.
Nothing to do with us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, and I just want you to know that, yeah, I think that the information that the ARC got and the district got was that their financer pulled out. And so, you know, I think that there's, you know, I think there is some truth to what Felicity is saying. Also, we did have a conversation with Brighton to make sure that they were doing their due diligence. You know, we did talk about transformers. We talked about, light fixtures, in the parking lot and all of those things. And we really wanted, Brighton to be able to do their due diligence so that we did not have, or we minimized the risk of unforeseen construction costs. So, and change orders and things like that. So anyway, This is a chart that I put together for Director Scobie, and you asked for me to chart the payoff. And that is the general manager, sorry, but that's the general manager's Excel spreadsheet. So as you can see, it kind of just goes down. There's not a big drop, it's a gradual decline. Is that what you wanted there?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to see. That surprises me. I didn't realize it was so linear.
Yeah, so it was very linear. And then there is a timeline I want to show the board. So I think it's one of the exhibits on the report. So yeah, and just know that there will have to be a lot of conversation about impacts to parking here at the Cameron Park Community Center, also the fire station. You know, if they're doing construction, I know that the fire trucks can get in and out of the bay, but there may be some other things that we're not thinking about. And so this can happen quickly if the board takes action this evening. And for me, this looks very quick, but just know that we'll have to have some conversations to minimize impacts due to construction. But I know that ARC and Brighton are very well versed in this. So.
And then I just wanted to make sure all the directors realize that once we get into this, there's a cancellation fee of $25,000 should we change our mind. I hope you all saw that. And then with a maximum of, was it 90 or 95,000? Should we, change our mind. So it's a risk that we'd take in my mind with any project like this. So I'm excited. I'm actually happy that we can buy it out at any point in time, because perhaps there'll be some giant breakthrough in solar panels in which we could, or new, I don't know. I love the fact that we can buy it out every year and there's not anything scary in that graph. Thank you for graphing that, Jill. I was just being lazy because I could do that too.
And Director Bazet, you had asked a question earlier, back on that chart, or even in the table earlier. The ending of that buyout is $20,000. So in year 25, when all that's done, we would pay $20,000 and own the system.
Oh, okay. And I'm thinking, even if the solar panels don't work, the parking structures have value just to park cars for employees or students or whoever.
Right. Well, and at that point too, in 25 years, if everything goes great and these panels hold up like they're supposed to and all is good, we own the structure, which is some of the biggest cost to putting that in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We can simply replace panels and some of the electronics in there, and go over another 25 years potentially.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. I mean, I didn't see that anywhere presented quite that way, but it really makes sense to me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else, directors? Anything other questions or comments you want to make? Anything of Nico?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate Eric and Monique, what both of you said about, I also really, really do like the option over the next few years to basically change our minds and decide that we want to buy it. I think we're at a really pivotal point as a district financially right now. I'm hoping that we're going to be continuing to grow stronger, but as we all know, it's COVID, and it's been a wildly unpredictable past year economically. So I think it's good to recognize the immediate savings, assuming all goes well in the next quarter. But I also like that. I really do like that option that we could buy later if we come into a stronger financial situation. So I just want to reiterate that. But thank you. Appreciate all the discussion and the presentation.
And it's worth adding to that, Director Carlson, because part of the conversation too is in terms of purchasing, if we were to finance, then obviously that's one way. The district could also look at just purchasing outright. But one of the considerations right now is our cash flow and our general fund balance. We just, that is not a wise idea for the ebb and flow of our cash in and out during the year. So that's another consideration for me.
And I appreciate your suggestion too, to set aside some of the savings that we would see in case the kid throws the pickaxe or whatever into the panel. So I think that's a good idea.
Well, and that's just what we want to do with our own budgets. We want to save for the future. When we get some savings, we plan, and if we don't have to use it, it's there to be used in another way. So, and we can.
And I wouldn't get too excited because, you take 1.7 million divided by 25, we're saving about 68K a year, which is great.
Which is great.
25 years.
You burst my bubble.
Great.
It's now 1.7 a year.
I kept thinking those big numbers.
So I like to get excited about the total, but 68K, gosh, that doesn't even cover our COVID expenses.
No, it's a good point.
All right. I've been notified there is a Q&A question up, and I know it's all I can see, and this would be, sorry to diverge here. Jason, you can chime in. I just want to make sure in this age of Zoom, just want to follow proper protocols here. Are we okay to read a public comment in the Q&A once public comment has been closed, or do we need to simply acknowledge that it's there but not bring it into our discussion?
What would be best, Director Asen, is if you just formally mention that you are reopening public comment on this particular item, then read it in, and then close public comment following that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the guidance on that. So with the consent of my fellow directors, I'm going to open public comment again for a moment to address the particular comment in Q&A.
I think to follow protocol, don't we need to have a motion per what you read earlier?
Is that what we need to do, Jason?
I'm sorry, my connection actually, I heard the first word out of Director Scobie's, what Director Scobie said, and then the rest was blank. What was that again?
She's simply asking if we need to make a motion to open public comment again.
It's not strictly necessary. If anyone objects to it, then you can just proceed to open it. However, if you want to be formal about it, certainly making a motion to reopen it is the ideal way to go.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to reopen public comment. I was just going on what it says. The board reserves the right to waive said rules by a majority vote. So I'm just trying to follow our own rules.
That's
So I will make the motion to open public comment again and hear this question.
I'll second. Director Carlson, second.
Okay, General Manager, quick roll call, please.
Oh, Director Asen.
Aye.
Director Carlson.
Aye.
Director Bazette.
Aye.
Director Scobie.
Aye.
And Director Wooten.
All right, Director Wooten, you are muted. I can read your lips, but I don't want to speak for you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
That's muted again. Ellie, you can give us a thumbs up if you're okay. Just give us a thumbs up in the camera.
Good.
There you go. We can hear you.
There.
Okay,
All right. Is that an aye?
that's an aye.
Great. Okay. So we open public comment again to address the question in Q&A. Glenn Rumbach, and I'll just read this into the record here, posted a question. If there were a new transformer installed, it would outlast the system and likely be available for any potentially new PV system installation in 2045, which is when this agreement would come to an end. So thank you, Glenn, for that input. That would allow us to invest in something that would outlast this system and go into the next one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions on that before we close public comment again?
Yes, that transformer is going to outlast me.
Where's it me?
How would you like to be my age? Uh-huh.
All right, so we'll close public comment having addressed that. Thank you, Mr. Rumbach. Appreciate that. Okay, so we'll bring this back to the board to either continue our discussion, or if somebody would like to make a motion for some action, we can do that.
With pleasure, I would like to make a motion to approve the solar PPA agreement.
I will second that motion.
Agenda.
Okay, so Director Scobie, if you would just read the official
Yeah, sorry about that.
the official business line there.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-05, Power Purchase Agreement between Brighton Energies and Cameron Park Community Services District.
I would like to second that motion.
Okay, General Manager, would you please do a roll call?
Director Easton,
Aye.
Director Carlson,
Aye.
Director Bassett,
Aye.
Director Scobie,
Woohoo! That's a yes.
Director Wooten.
Aye.
Oh, congratulations. Great. Great.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wonderful.
congratulations, board. This is really awesome.
And this is, and I'll just say it again, I want to thank Director Scobie on this, but Glenn and everybody who's been on the Solar Ad Hoc Committee that's helped get us to this point. It was just a little over 2 years ago we started this process. And to
Right.
come to this resolution, it's not in the ground yet, but this is a huge step, and I really want to thank everybody involved in this. This is, I think, a good long-term decision for our district. I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you.
And thanks, Nico,
Yes,
for being our guide.
yes, Nico, thank you.
And didn't we have a committee on this too that we should thank?
That's what I just did, thanking the whole Director Scobie and Glenn and everybody else who was a part of
Thank
that.
you.
Dan and Wright, yes.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, wonderful. So we'll move on now to general business item 13. This is a receive and file year end of fiscal year 1920. Fiscal report, pre-audit for general fund 01. General Manager and Vicki, would you lead us into that?
I'm going to kick us off, and then Vicki is available for any questions. We are here for the fiscal year 1920 pre-audit year end financial report. And what I'd like to do first is talk a little bit about how the actuals have changed a little bit from the budget. I know that that was outlined in our report, but I just wanted to reiterate that we went ahead and the cost for capital improvements and revenues associated with those capital improvements were placed into the special funds and not in the general fund as they were budgeted. By doing that and getting our capital costs and our revenues into the special funds, it helped us track these revenues and expenditures related to capital when it crossed fiscal years. It helps us with tracking when it's crossing fiscal years. Also, it helps with the capitalization of something. If you're spending for, let's say, a fire engine, and you bought the chassis in one fiscal year and you bought the equipment in another fiscal year, it helps us capitalize on all of those expenditures when it crosses fiscal years if it's in the same fund. So I just wanted you to know that that change did occur. The practice that we applied for 1920 by moving the capital cost and those revenues into the special funds is consistent with how you, the board budgeted for fiscal year 2021. So there will be some history and tracking into the future on this, which will be really great. We ended our fiscal year with a $232,000 deficit. Staff did make significant reductions in our expenditures the last quarter of the fiscal year 1920 due to COVID, but those expenditures just couldn't come down quick enough or fast enough to make up for the loss of revenue. I know many of you are familiar with this. Director Bassett is new. The district typically spends most of its money in the first half of a fiscal year because that's when the bulk of our summer operations is. And we gain most of our revenue in the latter part of a fiscal year because that's when everybody is signing up for summer camp. And, the pool is operational and annual passes and things like that. And so when COVID struck in the last quarter of that fiscal year, that came at a time where that was when we're supposed to really generate most of our revenue. So anyway, we are very hopeful that we will be able to make up for that deficit in our current fiscal year. Alyssa, you can go advance a couple of pages. Keep going. Yeah, there you go. This kind of shows you what the impact is to our fund balance. You can see that as the years have gone by, that our fund balance is declining. You know, in 18-19, had it not been for that negative revenue adjustment that we had to make, the current, you know, staff would have, you know, met our operationals budget would have balanced that year, which has been really great. Of course, we're not going to balance this year in 1920. In 2021, we did come forward with a revised budget to address COVID impacts. We made enough adjustments that we hope that we are going to come out with a zero net gain. And actually, we did not budget for what we expect is additional property taxes. So we're expecting about $130,000 in additional property taxes that we did not budget for when we came through on mid-year. So we're hoping that will make up for some of that deficit. So there is a list of items in the staff report that just kind of highlighted some of the line item changes that you saw. And I'm not going to go through those, but if you have any questions for me, I can answer those questions.
Let's open it up.
And Vicky's here too. I'm sorry.
Yes. All right, directors, any questions or clarifications?
I just noticed this. I wish I brought it up when we spoke. The ending balances should match the beginning balances for the following year. So I'm looking, you know, the first years do it. And then it looks like in 1920, the beginning balance doesn't match the ending balance.
Are you talking about the budget, the pre-audit, the budget?
Yeah, I'm just looking at those rows. So if you look, for example, on 1920, the fund balance ending is 3.3 million. And then the pre-audit for the following year is at 3.5.
Right, that I put in that column. So I just use the same beginning number. So
Same fiscal year. Director.
yeah, it's the same fiscal year.
Oh, so it is. Okay. I missed that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But that does point out, General Manager, that the budget fiscal year for 2021 should be perhaps 3,316,000.
Correct. And
Yes.
like I said, but I didn't mess with that because this is pre-audit.
Right.
And so, you know, I just put in that pre-audit column so that you could see what the impact is.
Great. Okay, good. I'm glad you explained that because I was, okay, thank you.
Director Scobie. Any other questions from the board?
No, this is Director Carlson, and I appreciate having gone over this in the Budget and Admin Committee, and then one-on-one with Jill. And I think that this, as I've said before, I think this makes sense, and it's going to help us have some increased transparency going forward. So thank you.
I actually have one other comment. If I'm reading this right, our budget for 2019 versus pre-audit 2019, we only spent 50K more due to COVID coming out bottom line.
Yeah, you could say that. But if you remember for fiscal year 1920, operationally, we were balanced, but that 182 was dedicated to a lot of capital outlay. So it was fire engines and some other expenditures in parks. So it was related to capital outlay. That capital outlay has by and large been pulled out of the general fund.
But I mean, bottom line impact, 50K from our fund balance, if I'm to reading that right.
Yeah, yes.
Additional.
Yes. you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, directors? Okay, seeing none at this point, we'll put it out to public for comment at this point. If you would like to make a comment, please feel free to raise your hand. We'll call on you.
No hands. We will be returning to the Budget and Admin Committee with some information about our special funds and our reserves in March. So just know that that information and some additional information is rolling out.
Okay, seeing no hands, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring this back to the board for discussion and decision. Anything else, directors? Any other comments, questions? Anything you want to say before the other directors regarding this? Okay. I will just add the comment to this is to thank again Jill and Vicky and staff for the work you've done to bring this back to zero for this year, hoping things continue well. So much is unpredictable and you've done a good job helping us navigate this. I appreciate that very much. And particularly with, thank you for bringing it to us about the potential property tax. We can always hope that'll come through. If we see that, that'll be good news for us too. So we'll watch for that.
We purposely didn't budget for it.
That's good. I appreciate that. We'll see how that plays out. There's some good potential in that. I'm grateful. Okay. Unless there's any other comments or questions regarding this, do we have any motion for action by the board?
I don't think we need to take do we have to do anything?
Sorry, oh, right. Thank you. This is receiving file. I apologize.
Yep.
I looked at the wrong line.
So file it, Mr. Easton.
Required by us. Thank you. You were all waiting patiently to do that. Okay. All right. So this is receive and file, and we will look forward to next month getting the rest of the funds brought forward. And we'll look forward to that final audit and just clearing all this off the books to look to our next budget, which is coming up pretty quick. All right. Thank you, staff, for your work on that. All right, moving on to item number 14. This is to approve the Cameron Park Community Service District 2021 work plan brought to us by our various committees and our directors and community members on that. So Jill, would you lead us into that?
I think this report has your name on it.
Oh yeah, it does.
Good job, Jill.
Well,
and that off, eh? All right. So last year was the first year that we had this kind of focus, and I was really grateful. Director Scobie, I think you were the one that brought this forward before, asking for the different committees to contemplate what they want to really focus on looking into this next year. For then it was 2021, or not, sorry, 2020. And that was really helpful in focusing the things we first focus on, things we first work on as people bring things to us and other items pop up. So we're continuing it again this year. And all the committees have brought forward their work plans, their focused priorities for this next year. So at this point, hopefully you've all had the chance to read through that. I'm going to open this up to the directors for any questions or comments to any of the other directors regarding any committees they're on, any suggestions for additions, etc.
I have a question.
Yes, Director Scobie.
Let's see, on the budget
committee. Yeah.
On the budget and admin committee,
yeah.
Could you give more detail on what the plan for financial sustainability to continue services post-pandemic means? When we were contemplating in one of our sessions at one time what a similar sentence meant, And so to see it again, I was just wondering if you could be more specific as to what that means.
I can start address that because you and I were on the committee together when we started that discussion, and Director Carlson, please fill in any gaps I leave. Initially, when we had put that last year, we just used the phrase sustainability. And we recognized, as Director Carlson and I were talking, that's not focused enough, particularly for a committee, but just to be able to do. So this is plan for financial sustainability, recognizing that that needs to be in front of us in all the work we do. And you would assume that that's going to happen, but we wanted to make sure that that is in front of the public as well as us, that this is what we are attempting to do in this 2020 Part 2 year. So that was the idea behind it. Financial sustainability is always a priority, a different consideration in this time. Does that answer your question?
So you're saying that when you guys are in the budget and admin committee, when you're making your decisions, you're going to be looking forward and making sure that it fits the requirement for financial sustainability after the pandemic.
Director Carlson, jump in if I'm missing any.
Losing now.
I believe that's yes. So when I joined the committee, it was planned for sustainability. I don't know if it had to continue services post-pandemic originally, but I think I requested that that sustainability be defined. And so, because it could be, of course, I guess I would call it environmental sustainability, which is also a worthy goal. But I don't think that was part of the budget and admin committee's charge. So it's making decisions like with the pool heater, for example, where we're making we're making a slightly higher investment now for something that's going to cost us a lot less in the future, so that the district has better financial sustainability going forward. It looks like it's causing you concern. Is it different from what you would think?
I just wanted to understand it because we struggled with what that meant in the past. And so I think the modifier financial sustainability definitely narrows how I would apply that.
I mean,
Don't
I think
go on a spending spree unless you have funding to cover it.
Right. And the board has taken steps and is continuing to take steps as Director Aston tonight proposed for discussion at another meeting, setting aside monies for damage to the solar panels that we ourselves our members of the public could have caused. So, I mean, that's the kind of planning for financial sustainability so that we have the savings for repairs and improvements.
And it's worth recognizing too, Monique, the context there. This is to continue services post-pandemic. We need to continue looking ahead that this is going to come to an end. And at some point we want to resume services and get back to being everything that we can be as a district, and continue that financial sustainability out of that. So that's the context.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from other directors to any of the committees?
Could we just tackle them one at a time, and then we can visually see it at the same time?
Sure, that sounds fine.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. Good suggestion, Director Bazette. Any questions or any comments on budget and admin? Okay, we'll move on to CC&R committee.
I think it has to scroll up. I think there's more.
Yeah, there is more.
Yeah, there we go. Darn it.
I can't see the whole thing.
Sorry, go ahead, Monique.
I just wanted to comment about the third bullet item under CC&R. The white paper is more of a concept of what it would look like, what type of work would need to be done, what would be an approach to consolidate CC&Rs into a single community-wide, or maybe just reduce them to 10. So it's not like we're tackling doing that. what we want to tackle is a better understanding of what it would take to do that. So I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. I think that's important because we have so many of them, and the amount of work that's done. We should understand why we're not doing it.
And Director Scobie, just for some people who might not know, can you just define what a white paper is?
Well, I think the white paper was a term that was tossed around. I think it more would be like a plan or just kind of a discussion. A
Issue
general
paper, I think,
It's a conceptual paper, if I'm right, General Manager?
yeah, or an issue paper. I think it's kind of a conceptual or issue paper. I mean, what I walked away with is that, what the report, you could call it a report too. What the report would do is identify our current situation, identify, possibly some pros and cons of doing this, and then identify a process, what it would look like if you chose, after you understood the issue, underweighed the pros and cons, if you decided that there were more pros and cons, what does the next steps look like? What does the process look like in order to achieve a single or fewer CCNRs?
Well, I would be fine with changing out the word white paper. I have to agree. I'm not quite sure what that means. Jill used the word report, but that seems kind of comprehensive, and this isn't supposed to be like a huge comprehensive piece of work.
I think white paper is fine.
Okay.
It's appropriate. I want to commend the CCNR committee for putting that on your radar. That's good. I'll also suggest it doesn't have to be for this year, but just put it on the radar too, is at some point we have to have a discussion about our CCNR special tax fee that has not changed since 1985. And as much as nobody wants to discuss those things, it hasn't changed since 1985. All right, first year of Reagan's second term. So we really need to address that at some point, and sooner rather than later.
You have a good point. I mean, I actually support that as well. Do you think, Jill, that we have the bandwidth in our committee to do a white paper on what that would look like?
I can tell you what it looks like. It would be a tax. It would be a voter approved additional tax. So it's not anything that the district can provide information about what the district could do with the additional tax revenues, but it's really for the residents and the voters side. It would be the same process by which the community rallied and got a bond to build the community center. Same process. That was a tax initiative. And so it's a voter approved tax initiative.
Now it's voter approved, but it doesn't have to be voter initiated.
Well, it has to be initiated by the residents.
Okay. That's something that can come out of the CSD or the board then.
Okay.
Similar to
Now,
a bond, say with the school districts, because I was around with that last year, is the school districts can talk about it and say, here's
sure.
what it is. Does it require a separate entity to bring that forward for public consideration?
Yeah. Yeah.
It can advocate.
Yeah, there has to be an advocacy group. The district cannot advocate for such a tax.
Right.
Ballot measure.
It can inform.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a person who's a member for that committee several years, I think it's a great concept. And probably tying that together with simplifying our CCNRs to some sort of a bond measure to increase the funding kind of makes good sense to tie those together. The one concern I would have is the diversity of our neighborhoods in this community. So CCNRs in one neighborhood may make really good sense, but not necessarily in another. And also the percentage required to amend the CCNRs might vary considerably from one neighborhood to another. So that if it's a 75% threshold in one neighborhood and 51 in another, then somebody's not going to be happy. So those are going to be some of the challenges out there. But I think the concept is a good one to increase our funding and to simplify what is a very confusing process for our residents.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up too, because part of our, outreach and our strategic plan has a lot of comments saying, maintain our neighborhoods, maintain our CNRs, maintain our property values and so forth. So it is a concern to our residents. And I would see something like that, obviously being a multi-year type endeavor. And I don't know how to start that. I mean, you're saying we need a advocacy group to do that. Maybe would it be more appropriate, as you're saying, is look into this first item that we plopped on there with the white paper, and then maybe next year take the next step? I don't know.
So CSDA has a lot of great information about revenues, revenues for special districts. And so I think that's it is a good place to start. And I can certainly, suggest some of those things. So.
And Director Wooten, I think you're trying to make some comments, but you are muted. You can unmute yourself there. Alyssa, if you can help her out there.
Yeah, there you go, Ellie. Oh,
just muted.
Nope.
You're good. We can hear you.
It muted again.
Oh, muted again? Okay. Let's try that one more time.
Got it.
There you go. We hear you.
Go.
Has everyone received the handbook for CCNRs?
It's a document that's posted on our website, Director.
Because the bottom line is the goals and objectives. The Cameron Park Community Service District believes that the expeditious and accurate processing of property improvement applications is essential to protect and maintain the quality of residential areas in the community, and that it is the Architectural Review Committee's responsibility to process all property improvement applications in a timely manner, reasonable and non-discriminatory manner. And that's the goals and the objectives of the CCNRs.
Any other comments or questions for the CCNR committee on their goals, on their work plan for the year?
Could you flip it down to the first two?
Go back to page. There you go.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I think it's worth noting there currently is nothing, no procedures or guidelines for architectural review. Isn't that correct, Jill?
That is correct.
Yeah, so I think this has long been needed. Thank you for that.
So I guess my question is, does the board want to add another bullet item under CCNRs to look at starting a process on securing additional revenue? I don't even know if you're saying we can even put it here because it can't be from the board.
Well, I mean, I think that you can, research revenue generating opportunities and leave it, rather open-ended on how you would raise additional revenues. If you want to do that, I know that we've tried to always maximize fees and things like that. So.
And certainly looking what other communities are doing.
Could we put it then to the CCNR committee to investigate CCNR fees in surrounding or like communities, to bring that to the board just for a comparison?
That sounds
In like communities?
Be a first step.
I can tell you that the El Dorado Hills fees are about 2 or 3 times higher than ours.
Okay.
So.
Well, perhaps maybe we should do this as an agenda item, as you're saying, in the CCNR committee. We can ask as a new item in there to bring some information regarding what that process would look like. It doesn't necessarily have to bubble up to our our work plan for the year, more of like this look at it in committee.
Yeah, why don't we,
And perhaps I could take some time and get together with the new gentleman, Jim, the new gentleman, and we could discuss this.
Okay. Yep.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Good suggestion.
Thank you. Anything else on CCNR work plan?
I don't believe so.
Okay, seeing none, let's move on to Fire and Emergency Services Committee. The board can look at that, and any comments or questions for
Well,
that?
I'm on that committee as well. And I have to just pat all our fire personnel on the back, because they are absolutely bringing projects forward, grants forward, new funding sources forward, to the point that they're doing such a good job. I asked them that we're putting it down as a goal for them to continue doing it. So that's the second item. So, you know what they say, what is it? The reward for good work is more work.
Yes.
I just thought I would share that with you. And it was important to keep our, our training tower and our remodel that's going through this year. I think that's important as one of our items. And then let's see, that last one. Yes. And the last one, I think Sid can talk about that last bullet item.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before that one, the one on the this first responder fee, I think we're going to vote on that tonight, but what I had not appreciated was in the educational system, we often bill Medi-Cal for medical services or counseling services and that sort of thing, going to another agency. And so in fire engines actually go out and do a lot of medical emergencies, even before the ambulance or even when the ambulance is not arriving, and paramedics are on board that engine and they are providing medical services. So it's a way in which we can get reimbursement for time, mileage, equipment used, that sort of thing. And apparently it's being used in other places, I think El Dorado Hills and Folsom. So
Yeah.
they're exploring that. So I thought that's just a very clever thing, and it just seems so logical. And then the last one, it was just I just felt there was nothing addressing the COVID. And yet when I had visited, some of the firemen had actually been tested positive and they had to quarantine, and, they eventually got their vaccine. So I just thought it's a big issue, perhaps the biggest one since the Spanish influenza. And so I just felt they are in a lead role. And I actually went down to the Bass Lake Fire Department. They vaccinated 380 people a couple of Saturdays ago, and I was hoping I could fit in there somehow. But I was just very impressed. They're stepping up, and they were the first fire department in the county. So it's one that I felt we should be taking an active role in, and whether it's and we have a lot of retirement folks in our community. So we're impacted, even if and keep our employees healthy is important. So I knew they put some thought and time into that, and I think they really did a good job. So I was very pleased by that one.
It's a good list, and that's
Yes.
a lot to accomplish in 1 year. Thank you for all that. I'd also just make sure, I'm sure it's on your radar, Sherry, Callan, Jed, that if this PPA happens, then the solar installation there at 89 will be a part of this too. And with tower construction, so there'll just be some coordination happening there. And I had also mentioned, I want to make sure that in all of this, it doesn't get lost. Pathways for the fire trucks coming in and out, so that it's all coordinated together. So that'll be kind of lumped in under that too. Not
Absolutely.
necessarily, doesn't necessarily need to go on the work plan, but that's coming too. Any other comments, questions from the board for the Fire and Emergency Service Committee? Looks good. Okay, let's move on to Parks and Rec.
I would like to hear from one of the Parks and Rec committee item, a little more detail about the park entry sign program.
Yeah.
You wanna go with that, Felicity, or me?
I I think we could both do it actually. So, you know, we have some beautiful little parks in our community that are not identified as parks in our community. And our taxes support their maintenance and our staff does a great job taking care of those parks. But again, they're not identified as parks that are maintained by Cameron Park. So I've been asking if we could have some more more visible signs for some of the parks, and it turns out I guess that staff had already looked into this a while ago and presented some absolutely gorgeous examples of signs, and they do cost a pretty penny, but you know, we do have some park funding, and you know, if we're careful to use the funding appropriately, we really think that as an item of transparency, really, that we want to have better signage for the parks. But Director Bassett, I think as a realtor, had you know, some good points about that too.
Yeah, my point was, you know, for me, it's a pride thing. I'm really proud of our parks. And I said, as an example, if I was showing someone new to this community and driving into a neighborhood, I think there's a park over there, or, you know, but it's not clear. I'd love to see very beautifully dramatic signs that show, yeah, that is such and such a park. Yeah, and so it's a thing of pride for me, but it's an improvement, quality of life, and just enhancement of our community. And I think it also, the pride that our folks in our parks folks feel, it just acknowledges that we have some beautiful parks and they do a very great job of maintaining them. So we've kind of made do with wood shop inspired signs for years, but I'm thinking maybe a larger commercial size. We're looking about 4 or 5 feet across.
I think they're 8 feet across.
8 feet across, so they're pretty substantial, but if you're driving by, you can see there's a park there. And they were, the one I particularly, they had kind of wooden sides, kind of a natural cedar. And then they had, the one I liked was green with white lettering. And there would be room for the Cameron Park Community Service District logo up there in the corner or something like that. So to me, it just really stood out as like, this is a beautiful park and we're proud of it.
Yeah. And I want to comment on the second, oh, sorry, Director Wooten.
No, I was thinking about those signs for the parks. And if you remember last year, Mike put up a sign for us because of someone left the car door open at the dog park and her purse was in the front and someone ran in with buzzed by with an automobile, stopped and jumped out and grabbed the purse, and away that went. And then to make it even worse, later on, several months down the line, there was such a rainstorm, a tree fell and down went that sign. And I know Mike put in a lot of work and it was a great sign, but the tree took the sign. So you have to be kind of careful where you're putting your signs.
Yeah, the directional sign thing is a secondary point, like, you know, dogs must be on leash or the dogs are not allowed.
That was the sign.
Yeah, okay. Or I think, you know, Rasmussen Park is a tiny little sign pointing it's up the hill. Or, you know, just things like that that are informational that also should be thought through. Oh, another one that I liked is kind of like work in progress. So like the water splash thing is that the people who go to the park could see its completion date is such and such, maybe some sort of a visual of what it's going to look like and that sort of thing, acknowledging the good work that we're doing. So I just thought on that informational level would be a nice thing to have as well.
I really like the concept of I mean, we have kind of a communication issue. I think we're going to be talking about in our strategic plan. Signs, I think, are extremely important, especially when people are physically there and can read it. And they can start realizing that there's a entity called the Cameron Park Community Services District. It'd be really nice for them to know that and put it on the sign. So I'm really interested to see what you guys come up with. Maybe it can, I don't know, when it's done, somebody can let me know so I can take a look at it. Or maybe you're planning on having it come through the board as an info item. I'd like to see it when you're done.
Yeah, we're kind of just a planning stage, I think, at this point, aren't we, Felicity? Yeah, we're just getting the idea out there.
Yeah.
I
So,
want to encourage that and support that too. I appreciate the parts in there of signs on informative and educational. I've long wanted to see our schools in the area be connected and take advantage. Our lake is a fabulous place to go for a science day, my word, with the
Yes.
ecosystems and the wildlife and all these different things, as well as other, you can have watershed projects. There's all kinds of things in our area.
Turkeys.
So even, projects, looking at all we've done with weed abatement and fire prevention planning, those are amazing things that could be incorporated into schools and science classes. Signage is a piece of that. Like you go to a state park and you see, here's what lives here, here's what's been here, here's our history. Those things just add to pride in a community, knowledge. Yeah, so I like this. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board on Parks and Rec Committee work plan?
yeah, this is Felicity. I want to comment on the second bullet about support new base of operations.
Yeah.
So, Jill, please make sure, please add comment if you feel you need to. My understanding of this phrase is that it means having a better understanding with numbers and math of how many people attend various rec programs and really using those kind of statistics, if you will, to plan what kind of programming might make sense going forward.
Mhm.
So is that the right idea,
Yeah.
Jill?
Data, we want to, kind of a data-driven system. And I think that, I think that we've talked about changing recreation instead of having 20 different classes that serve 3 people, and if there's 3 people in each class, there's a much better way to do this. And let's have fewer classes with that have more people in them. So I just think that we've been talking about this for a long time. COVID kind of has disrupted, what we're doing in recreation. But as we emerge out of this, I think the recreation department is going to look much different.
Well, I'm actually encouraged in some of that because in some ways it clears the playing field and
Yes.
rebuild, not having to adjust things, but rebuild in appropriate ways.
It's a
as
reset key.
So yeah, I'm actually excited to see how that comes back.
Mhm.
Because I think it'll come back strong and efficient. That'll be nice.
Yeah.
So,
And Ms. Kimball, is there another bullet point for Parks and Rec on the next page?
Yeah, I was wondering too.
Nope. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
okay. Unless there's any more comments or questions from board, I'm going to open up to community for any input or comments. And any more questions, board directors? Okay, let's open it up to community. Anybody from our attendees here who would like to ask questions or chime in on any of these items, we can scroll back and forth on the screen so you can reference that if necessary. Feel free to raise your hand.
No hands.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Yep.
Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment on that. And so now we bring it back to the board. Any other discussion on this or clarifications?
I just want to point out that we have 2 pages of bulleted items that we want to get done. We don't have any lack of enthusiasm or commitment in our district, do we?
Nope.
So thank you, everybody. I'm so excited. This is I just feel like we are definitely wrapping our arms around our issues, moving forward, getting things done. So many projects coming forward. I'm so excited for this next year.
Well, and I think that the board accomplished, I think, most all of the things that were in the work plan for last year. So that's quite an accomplishment.
It also shows how efficient a committee process can be. Smaller group of people in a more thoughtful way can be very effective.
So thank you, Jill, for helping shepherd this across committees and groups. This is good work. Appreciate that. Okay, unless there's any other discussion, do we have a motion for action here?
I'll move to approve the Community Park Community Service District 2021 work plan.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, General Manager, roll call, please.
Director Easton?
Aye.
Director Carlson?
Aye.
Director Bazette?
Aye.
Director Scobie?
Woohoo, let's get to work.
Director Wooten?
I'll approve that.
Okay. Thank you, directors. We have our work cut out for the year. It's going to be a good year.
Yes.
To see all of this move forward, and not just to directors, but to all of our staff and partners that are here tonight that are also part of this, not just shaping it, but making it happen. Looking forward to doing this with you all this year. This is good. Okay, so we've completed our general business for tonight. Moving on now to board information items. We'll hit general matters to and from board members and staff. We've had a lot of discussions on some things tonight, so I think we've covered a lot of territory, but I want to make sure we hit anything else that needs to be done. So let's start with directors. Director Carlson, any matters to or from?
Yeah, as you all read in the general manager's report, Eric and I met with Supervisors Turnbull and Parlin separately just to discuss matters of interest to our residents. And we talked about the concerned citizens. We learned what the concerned citizens of Cameron Park were working on. And we also discussed the park improvement plan, the solar energy project, the weed abatement, and COVID. So it was really satisfying meetings, and I look forward to our district continuing to have good working relationships with our various partner agencies, including especially the county. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Carlson. Let's go mark down. Director Wooten, anything to bring matters to and from?
I have had a session with Sheriff D'Agostini, and we have been talking about homeless. And when I hear any more, I will certainly let you know.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Director Scobie.
Well, I just wanted to kind of share with you some thoughts I had. Likely, good grief, here's my notes. Okay, so we have our strategic plan that we're going to be working on, and perhaps I keep bringing up a environmental sustainability type policy I'd like to see our board tackle. And perhaps that when we go through that, we might be considering an ad hoc environmental sustainability type committee. So I just wanted to throw that out there to have you guys, kind of thinking of that, if that would be where our strategic plan would lead us to come up with some sort of guidelines for us. I wanted to let you know I walked Royal Park after the fire, after I heard that the fire had gone in, our fire department went in there and cleared that out. And wow, is that a beautiful, beautiful area. I wish it was longer, but it was really nice. It's a definitely underutilized park. Be something if we could do something, to help promote that. I also walked Gateway Park. I might have told you that as well after that was cleared. And that's another fantastic park after that's cleared and so forth. So I also just wanted to let you know that we have a very popular disc golf course, and because I live at the lake, I get to see all the activity out there. And there is some repair that needs to be done at the lake path. You guys are probably something we probably wouldn't have anticipated putting it in, but it's something that I just wanted to bring to your attention that staff is on and will be addressed. And just a little background on Hope. talking about full circle, everybody. I was taking Spanish at the CSD when we actually had, rec department, and Hope was in my Spanish class. So we don't have a Spanish class right now because of COVID. So we all went offline, and we've been doing it like Zoom, just as a informal group of us. And she knew I was on the board. And so I just turned her loose to Jill. And it was just really nice to see this kind of full circle thing coming through with a CSD class, and then having her coming and joining in the board. I just, and doing a presentation and being involved in the community. So I just wanted to share a little background. And that's all I have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Director Scobie. Director Bazette.
Well, I checked next door, it seems like, the social media, and it seemed like in the last week or so, I've had two people putting out there with wanting to know about CCNR rules about installing a swimming pool. And they simply had not a clue of what to do or how to do it. And so, again, I gave them the contact information for Jim and explained the process. And then I explained the county process. So anyway, that never goes away. But I think people are enjoying their homes more and been doing improvements. And suddenly swimming pools seem to be a hot item. And then I get the fire departments mixed up. I think is 89 the one that's on Alhambra, or is it 86?
88.
88.
I wasn't even right. Okay. So I got
88 and 89.
88, those the small one, right?
Yes.
Okay, smaller number. Okay. So I got a tour of that actually today. And because I know we're doing the remodel, and I was just really curious. It's such a tiny spot and all that. So I went in there and asked a lot of questions, and I got to meet them, and it's really quite a lovely place. But anyway,
It's little.
but it's cozy. It's very they made it really nice. It's a charming fire. It's charming an operative word to use with a fire department, but they're nice people and they've made the most of it. But yeah, it certainly is. I think the improvements are well warranted. And again, my feeling is these guys spend a huge part of their lives there. We want to make those facilities as nice as we can. And the funny thing for me is, eating the meals is one of the big things about being a fireman. They have TV trays. Now, would you guys want eating 3 meals a day on your TV tray? Maybe watching the Super Bowl, but so part of it would be having a dining room and just a little, space for things like that. But they're very positive, and the facility is really spotless and nice. But I think the improvements are going to be well warranted, and I think we're going to be very, very pleased when that results. I think we've already voted on that too, haven't we? It's coming up.
No, Sydney, we voted it on the consent calendar.
That's what I thought. Okay, I knew it was out there somewhere. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bazette. A couple things from myself. Just a reminder, I really appreciated over the last couple of years, the board members talking about conferences, webinars, things that we've gone to just to grow in our knowledge and our leadership in this role. So I'll just remind you that that's still out there. The SDRMA website and the emails that come through in your other box in your director's email have regular opportunities for webinars that are free to us as members of the SDRMA. So want to encourage you to look for those. There's actually one in there, if you haven't watched it yet, on strategic planning, which would be another nice feeder for our work coming up still. So with that is also the reminder on our ethics certificates. And I know, Alyssa, you're working on that to get to the board members what we need to get up on. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. So my fellow directors, be expecting that from Alyssa, and let's stay on top of that. So we've got all our ethics. And I'm saying that because I just got mine done. So I'm okay. I am ethical and I'm certified ethical. So that's coming. And I also wanted to say I had a wonderful experience with our architectural review committee. I had a tree that needed to come down. There was a great form I filled out online, and they requested pictures, and I sent that in, and I paid my fee and got approved. And I have this wonderful sign, thank you, General Manager and Jim, out in front of my house saying this project was approved by the Cameron Park CSD Architectural Review Committee.
Oh, neat.
Wanted to make sure that you all know, both as directors and as neighbors of other people who either doing projects that need to get approved or they've got that done, just to remind them to go through that. And there's ways for us to let our community know that's what needs to happen. So I'm proudly displaying my sign here for a couple of weeks until I get a grinder and take out that stump. But I've been appreciating just getting more educated myself in the things that need to be done. So I think that kind of signage is really good. And it might even be worth considering having signage up, just informing the public. Do you have a home project that needs to be done? Contact your CSD for guidance or something like that. I don't know. We put these signs around the community on corners and such, particularly heading into spring when people tend to do these kind of projects. If that might be just a good little signage informational thing for us to do. So thought I'd throw that out.
And don't forget to bring back your binders.
All right, so that's it for my report. Just echo Director Carlson. We had good meetings with Supervisor Turnbull and Harlan. Really appreciated getting to talk with them and bring before them what we're doing now and re-engaging that relationship with them. Both there's immediate things that we're doing as well as longer term concerns. So as we do that, I'll encourage my fellow directors to be thinking about things that we can engage the county with along that line. So that's my report. I'll just throw it out as a general question without going through staff. Anything to or from our staff?
I think the only thing we've got is I just want to remind everybody of our workshop next week. And it starts at 5:30. Okay, so just make sure that it's on your calendar for 5:30 to 7:30. This is our third and final workshop. And after we collect the information at this meeting, we will come back with a draft, actually a draft plan. You'll start looking at a draft strategic plan. So anyway, just.
And what's the workshop pertaining?
It's pertaining the strategic plan.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
And with that, the reminder you'll see on your agenda, directors, completing your Form 700. There is a webinar for that. If you have not done that before, most of us should have done that. It comes up again each year. So make sure you're following through on that and taking care of that. It's
and
due
what was
by
the date?
March. Jill, do you remember the date? It's in March. If you don't, that's fine.
What was the date for the strategic plan?
Just a second, Director Wooden. We're on the Form 700. You should have received an email from the county, which would have the due date in that. Just want to make sure you all are keeping on top of that. And Director Wooden, the date for our meeting is next Wednesday, correct, General Manager? 5:30?
5:30.
Okay.
What's that date?
The 24th of February.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so moving on now to committee reports. We'll start with budget and admin.
What?
We're moving on to committee reports, Director Wooden.
Oh.
Budget Administration Committee. Our work this week was what came to you, the fiscal year end report. On the consent agenda, we had the pool heater and lights, which again, thank you, Mike, for your good work on that and getting those bids and the cheapest installation, and this to get this in good shape, as well as our work plan. I think that was it. Was there anything else, Felicity?
No, we really did basically go over it again tonight. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. No problem. Thank you. Appreciate that. And that's it from budget and admin. CC&Rs.
I really don't have anything because I have not been able to talk to Jim, and he has any absolutely new information. I do have the overview of the CC&Rs, which I think most of you should have. Do you?
Well, Ellie, we're just reporting back from our last committee meetings.
Oh, well, that's, I don't have anything else to say.
Okay.
I think on CC&Rs, I think I was chair. So we actually spent some time educating me since I was new to the committee, and we got to meet our new committee members. This was actually our first meeting of the year because it was canceled last year. Sorry, last month. So I got to meet the new committee members, and that's really nice. Seeing new people coming, new faces, and our work plan. We talked a lot about what you guys saw,
Mhm.
and
We had an update on Silver Springs, the CCNR that we're being paid to write to.
yes, we did. And so, and I think that was in your general manager's report too, that Jim has another duty that he's being paid separately for, writing CCNRs. What do you know? So yeah, I think that's, anything else you guys want to add?
No.
Thank you for that, ladies. Committee report, Fire and Emergency Services.
Well, we talked about that fee for services thing a little bit, and they really, it gave us a lot of information on that, and it really makes very good sense, and where it seems to be the way things are going in other fire departments. And then I got it right now. We were paying for the architectural services for the remodeling of Station 88. So that's what I think we talked about that and what that might look like, and then the cost of adding a second story. What that might look like, and anyway, a lot more information on that. And the work plan, we put some time on the work plan.
But we're not building a second story. It wasn't.
No,
Yeah.
well, it was just one of those discussion things. Yeah, what would it look like if? Yeah. I think it wasn't $1 million more or something like that. It was quite a bit anyway.
Yeah, that's correct. They talked about that. I think once we move forward with the plan, the architect will come up with some more computer aid drafted plans and give us different options that we'll choose from after we start this initial process.
Yeah. The challenge is there's not much land there. So anyway.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. You brought forth good work this week. All right, Parks and Rec Committee. Director Carlson, Director Bazette.
Yeah, we discussed applying for Prop 68 and some of the underlying work that has to go into that, looking at CEQA, and I think we finalized the year's bullet points for the work plan. So I mean, basically we're continuing to look at the prioritized projects that the entire board had voted on last year, and moving forward in a way to maintain our fields, get them up to date while people are not playing due to COVID, and capitalizing on that situation, if you will. So I think there's just a lot of forward movement, but I think you've largely heard what we've been up to in tonight's meeting.
It's funny, they really do a shift with the seasons, and there's just a lot of maintenance kind of things they're doing now, which is really a smart way to use staff.
Something I'll ask the committee, maybe this is committee and general manager in this, where are we at with county and restrictions and all that for field use by groups? Where's that at right now?
You mean with COVID restrictions?
Yeah.
Yeah. The fields can be used, and there are COVID protocols that have to be followed. We received word that Little League would like to play ball. So that was good news for us. And so I think that they're trying to get that organized, and we're providing them with the COVID protocols for them to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you. And yeah, please be reporting that to us, because I am curious how that gets re-engaged and when these groups get to be back on. Are there other groups that are using their fields right now?
Well, when Little League uses it, they use them all. And so the other groups that were using, there was a lot of competitive ball or just kind of alternate baseball groups that were using our fields. Those groups will kind of be moved off now for our the Cameron Park. It's not Prospector, it's Prospector Soccer, and Ponderosa Little League. So Ponderosa Little League pretty much uses all the fields.
Great. All right. Okay, thank you for that. And that completes our committee reports. And so with that, we are getting ready to move into closed session. Before we do that, we would like to open up for public comment. Any members of the public who can speak on any closed agenda item. Closed sessions can be called as necessary for personal litigation, labor relations, or to meet negotiator prior to the purchase, sale, exchange, or lease of real property. So at this point, members of the public can address the board regarding anything on closed session before we go to that. We have one member of the public left. Raise your hand if you have any comment to make. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment for closed session.
Take 5 minutes off.
I think we can do that. So what we will do is we will call a recess, a 5-minute recess for us to reset and get ready to convene to close session.
Thank you, sir.
Not a problem then.
Oh,
And I want to thank our public thank you, Glenn, for being here to the very end. Presence with us here tonight and your support and all the things we're doing.
Hope you're well, Glenn.
Yes. All right, so we will then move to closed session. And oh yes, and with that, we can go ahead and can we pause the recording? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The report out of closed session is that the board discussed in closed session the item agendized for closed session discussion, which was conference with labor negotiator, General Manager Jill Ritzman, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, labor negotiations, all units, and direction was given to staff and negotiator. The Board of Directors adjourned from closed session at 9:58 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much.